I am Dr. Laura Moreno, and in this video, I want to talk to you about what really happens to your body when you drink coffee every day. Coffee is one of the most consumed beverages in the world, and for many people, it is much more than a drink. It is part of a routine, a moment of pause, a source of comfort, and for some, a way to function. But beyond the habit, coffee has real physiological effects that depend on how often you drink it, how much you consume, and how your body processes caffeine. When you drink coffee, the first system to respond is your nervous system. Caffeine blocks adenosine, a chemical in the brain that promotes relaxation and sleep. As adenosine is blocked, brain activity increases, and this is why you feel more awake, alert, and focused. For many people, this effect is pleasant and helpful, especially in the morning or during periods of mental demand. At the same time, caffeine stimulates the release of adrenaline. This hormone prepares the body for action. Your heart rate may increase slightly, your blood pressure can rise temporarily, and your senses may feel sharper. This is part of the reason why coffee can improve performance and reaction time in the short term. However, this stimulation also explains why some people feel jittery, anxious, or uncomfortable after drinking coffee, especially if they are sensitive to caffeine. Your digestive system also reacts quickly. Coffee stimulates the production of stomach acid and increases intestinal activity. This is why many people feel the urge to go to the bathroom shortly after drinking it. For some, this can help regulate bowel movements. For others, especially those with sensitive stomachs, gastritis, or acid reflux, daily coffee can worsen symptoms like burning, bloating, or discomfort. Another important effect of daily coffee consumption is on blood sugar regulation. Caffeine can temporarily reduce insulin sensitivity, meaning that after drinking coffee, your body may not handle sugar as efficiently for a short period of time. In healthy individuals, this effect is usually mild and temporary. But in people with insulin resistance or diabetes, drinking coffee without food or in large amounts may contribute to blood sugar fluctuations. Coffee also affects your hormones. Regular caffeine intake stimulates cortisol, the stress hormone. Cortisol naturally peaks in the morning, and drinking coffee early can amplify this response. Over time, especially in people who rely heavily on coffee to function, this can contribute to feelings of fatigue, dependency, or burnout. The body starts to rely on caffeine instead of its own natural energy rhythms. Your heart and circulation are also influenced by daily coffee intake. In moderate amounts, coffee is generally safe for most people and may even have protective effects due to its antioxidant content. However, in sensitive individuals, caffeine can trigger palpitations, increased heart rate, or a feeling of chest discomfort. These reactions do not mean coffee is dangerous for everyone, but they do mean that not all bodies respond the same way. Another system affected is sleep. Even if you feel that coffee no longer keeps you awake, caffeine can still interfere with sleep quality. It reduces deep sleep and can fragment your sleep cycles even when consumed earlier in the day. Poor sleep quality then leads to more fatigue the next day, creating a cycle where you rely even more on coffee to feel functional. Daily coffee consumption also affects hydration. Coffee has a mild diuretic effect, especially in people who are not accustomed to caffeine. This means it can increase urine output. While coffee does contribute to fluid intake, relying on it as your main source of hydration can lead to subtle dehydration, which may cause headaches, fatigue, or difficulty concentrating. Over time, your body adapts to caffeine. This is called tolerance. The same amount of coffee that once made you feel energized may stop having the same effect. Many people respond by increasing their intake, which can increase the risk of side effects like anxiety, digestive issues, and sleep disturbances. Coffee also contains antioxidants and bioactive compounds that can be beneficial. These compounds help reduce oxidative stress and inflammation in the body. This is one reason why moderate coffee consumption has been associated in some studies with a lower risk of certain chronic diseases. However, Benefits are highly dependent on moderation and individual tolerance. The way you drink your coffee matters as well. Drinking it on an empty stomach can increase cortisol and stomach acid, leading to digestive discomfort and energy crashes later in the day. Adding large amounts of sugar or flavored syrups changes its metabolic impact completely, turning coffee into a source of rapid sugar spikes rather than a supportive habit. There is also an emotional and psychological aspect. Many people associate coffee with productivity, comfort, or social interaction. Over time, the brain can link coffee to feeling capable or motivated. When this happens, skipping coffee can lead to irritability, headaches, or a feeling of mental fog, not because the body truly needs coffee, but because it has adapted to its presence. And there is still much more to understand about how daily coffee consumption affects your gut, your stress response, your energy levels throughout the day, and how to recognize when coffee is helping you and when it is actually working against your body. Because that difference is essential for your long-term health. Your gut plays a much bigger role in how coffee affects you than most people realize. Daily coffee consumption can influence the balance of bacteria in the gut, and this effect can be positive or negative depending on the individual. In some people, coffee stimulates gut motility and helps prevent sluggish digestion. In others, especially those with sensitive intestines or irritable bowel patterns, it can trigger cramping, urgency, or loose stools. Coffee also stimulates the release of bile, which helps digest fats. This can be beneficial when digestion is slow, but if bile flow is already excessive or unbalanced, coffee may worsen digestive discomfort. This is one reason why two people can drink the same amount of coffee and have completely different digestive reactions. Another important aspect is how coffee interacts with nutrients. Caffeine can interfere with the absorption of certain minerals, particularly iron and calcium, when consumed close to meals. Drinking coffee with or immediately after eating can reduce iron absorption, which is especially relevant for people prone to anemia. Over time, this subtle interference can contribute to fatigue without an obvious cause. Daily coffee intake also affects the adrenal system. While the adrenal glands do not burn out in a literal sense, constant stimulation through caffeine can dysregulate how your body responds to stress. You may notice that your energy feels unstable, with peaks shortly after coffee followed by crashes later in the day. This roller coaster effect often leads people to drink more coffee, reinforcing the cycle. Mood and emotional regulation are also influenced. Caffeine increases dopamine signaling in the brain, which can improve mood temporarily. However, in people prone to anxiety, this stimulation can intensify nervousness, restlessness, or racing thoughts. Over time, daily overstimulation can reduce emotional resilience, making stress feel harder to manage. Your relationship with hunger can also change. Coffee suppresses appetite in the short term, which is why some people skip meals without realizing it. While this may seem convenient, consistently replacing food with coffee can disrupt blood sugar balance, leading to irritability, fatigue, and stronger cravings later in the day. Another area often overlooked is how coffee affects hormonal balance, especially in women. Caffeine can influence estrogen metabolism and may exacerbate symptoms like breast tenderness, PMS, or cycle irregularities in some individuals. These effects are not universal, but they are important to consider when symptoms seem unexplained. Tolerance and dependence develop gradually. You may not notice it happening, but when you skip your usual coffee, symptoms like headaches, low mood, or difficulty concentrating can appear. These are not signs that coffee is essential for your body, but signs that your nervous system has adapted to its daily presence. It is also important to recognize that not all coffee is the same. The quality of the beans, the roasting process, and the brewing method all influence how coffee affects your body. Highly acidic coffee or heavily roasted beans can be harsher on the stomach. Cold brew, for example, is often better tolerated by people with acid sensitivity because it contains less acid. Timing is another critical factor. Drinking coffee late in the afternoon or evening can disrupt your circadian rhythm, even if you fall asleep easily. Caffeine remains in the system for hours, and its effects on deep sleep can reduce recovery, leaving you tired the next day without understanding why. When coffee supports the body, it tends to enhance alertness without causing crashes, improve focus without anxiety, and fit into a routine that includes proper meals, hydration, and rest. When it works against the body, it becomes a tool to push through fatigue rather than address its cause. And this leads to an important question. How do you know if daily coffee is truly helping you or if your body is simply adapting to it? Understanding that difference requires paying attention to subtle signs, patterns, and responses that most people ignore, and that awareness is what allows you to use coffee consciously rather than automatically. One of the clearest signals your body gives you is how you feel before your first cup of coffee. If you wake up completely exhausted, foggy, or irritable every single morning and only feel normal after caffeine, that is often a sign that your nervous system has become dependent rather than supported. Coffee should enhance baseline energy, not replace it. Another subtle sign is how your body reacts to stress throughout the day. If small problems feel overwhelming, if your heart races easily, or if you feel tense for no obvious reason, daily caffeine may be amplifying your stress response. Caffeine increases cortisol, the primary stress hormone, especially when consumed on an empty stomach. Over time, this constant cortisol stimulation can make your body feel like it is always in a low-grade fight-or-flight state. Hydration is another factor many people underestimate. Coffee has a mild diuretic effect, and while it does not dehydrate severely on its own, it can contribute to fluid imbalance if water intake is low. Chronic mild dehydration can manifest as headaches, fatigue, dry skin, and even muscle cramps, symptoms that people rarely associate with their daily coffee habit. There's also a genetic component to how coffee affects you. Some people metabolize caffeine quickly, while others process it very slowly. Slow metabolizers may feel wired for hours, experience disrupted sleep, or develop palpitations even with moderate amounts. If coffee affects you long after drinking it, your body may be signaling that your tolerance threshold is lower than you think. Daily coffee consumption can also mask underlying health issues. Fatigue caused by nutrient deficiencies, thyroid imbalances, poor sleep quality, or chronic inflammation can be temporarily overridden by caffeine. This creates the illusion of functioning while the root problem continues to progress unnoticed. Pay attention to your sleep quality, not just how fast you fall asleep. Coffee can reduce deep and REM sleep even when consumed early in the day. You may wake up after a full night in bed still feeling unrefreshed, relying on coffee again to compensate. This creates a loop that is difficult to recognize without conscious observation. Another important point is quantity. Many people underestimate how much caffeine they are actually consuming. Large cups, refills, energy drinks, and pre-workout supplements add up quickly. The nervous system responds to total load, not just individual drinks. Your body also adapts by increasing tolerance, which means the same amount of coffee produces less benefit over time. When this happens, people often increase intake, not realizing they are chasing an effect their body is actively dampening. This is where side effects begin to outweigh benefits. Coffee can be a powerful tool when used intentionally. It can improve focus, reaction time, and even offer protective effects due to its antioxidant content. But these benefits appear most clearly when coffee is not used as a crutch for exhaustion. One of the simplest ways to reset your relationship with coffee is to change timing. Waiting at least 60 to 90 minutes after waking before your first cup allows your natural cortisol rhythm to rise and fall as intended. This can reduce dependence and improve energy stability throughout the day. Pairing coffee with food is another strategy that reduces stress on the nervous system and stabilizes blood sugar. Protein and healthy fats can buffer caffeine's impact and prevent jitters or crashes. Ultimately, your body communicates constantly through sensations, energy levels, mood, digestion, and sleep. Coffee does not silence these signals, but it can blur them if overused. Learning to listen carefully allows you to decide whether coffee is serving your health or simply pushing your body past its limits. Another area where daily coffee has a noticeable effect is digestion. For many people, coffee stimulates bowel movements shortly after drinking it. This happens because caffeine increases gastric acid secretion and stimulates contractions in the colon. While some see this as a benefit, relying on coffee to trigger digestion can indicate that the gut has become dependent on stimulation rather than functioning naturally. Over time, this may worsen issues like acid reflux, gastritis, or irritable bowel symptoms in sensitive individuals. Blood sugar regulation is another important piece of the picture. Caffeine can temporarily reduce insulin sensitivity, meaning glucose stays in the bloodstream longer. In healthy individuals, this effect may be mild, but for people with insulin resistance, prediabetes, or chronic stress, daily coffee, especially when consumed without food, can contribute to energy crashes, shakiness, and increased cravings later in the day. Hormonal balance is also influenced by regular caffeine intake. In some people, especially women, coffee can intensify symptoms related to hormonal fluctuations, such as anxiety before menstruation, breast tenderness, or sleep disturbances. This is not because coffee is inherently harmful, but because it interacts with cortisol and estrogen metabolism in ways that vary from person to person. Your cardiovascular system responds subtly as well. Caffeine can cause a temporary increase in heart rate and blood pressure. For most healthy adults, this is not dangerous. But if you experience palpitations, skipped beats, or chest discomfort after coffee, these are signals worth paying attention to. The body often gives warnings long before a problem becomes clinical. Mental health is another area where daily coffee can have both positive and negative effects. In moderate amounts, caffeine can improve mood and alertness. In excess, it can increase anxiety, restlessness, and irritability. People who feel constantly on edge may not realize that caffeine is intensifying their nervous system load rather than helping them cope. There is also the impact on nutrient absorption. Coffee can interfere with the absorption of minerals such as iron, magnesium, and calcium when consumed close to meals. Over time, this may contribute to deficiencies, especially in people who already have marginal intake or absorption issues. One of the most overlooked effects of daily coffee is how it shapes your perception of energy. When energy becomes something you drink, rather than something you generate through rest, nutrition, and balance, the body loses its natural rhythm. True energy is stable, not spiked. Coffee creates peaks, but the valleys that follow are often ignored. Taking short breaks from coffee can be very revealing. Even a few days without it can show you how your body truly feels without stimulation. Headaches, fatigue, or irritability during withdrawal are signs of dependence, not weakness. They simply indicate adaptation. Coffee itself is not the enemy. Awareness is the key. When you understand how your body responds, you can use coffee intentionally rather than automatically. The goal is not to eliminate it, but to make sure it supports your health instead of compensating for imbalance. Your body is always communicating. The way you sleep, digest, focus, and feel emotionally are all part of that conversation. Coffee can amplify or interfere with those messages depending on how and why you use it. Learning to observe those signals is the first step toward a healthier, more conscious relationship with this daily habit.